Thank you so much. Marvellous. So my name's Beck Collins. I'm from Sustainability West Midlands. We have been asked by the LGA to run this programme for them, and we are working with our two of our member organisations, SHAP, the Sustainable Housing Action Partnership, and Contented, to deliver this programme. You've all received email invitations from me to invite you to all of the different sessions, and I am a point of contact for you if you have any questions, as well as Jacob. But please do feel free to email me if you have any questions about logistics or any problems. John is going to, well, I won't talk anymore. Brilliant. So that's from me. Just to let you know that my colleague Nat from SWM is also helping with us today. He's going to be setting up the breakout groups today. So he's busy doing that right now, but this is Nat here. Thank you.
Thank you, Beck. Richard, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Bob. I'm an associate for SHAP, as Beck mentioned, one of the organisations working on this project. We're Sustainable Housing Action Partnership. We're a non-for-profit, membership-led organisation based in the West Midlands, but we do work further afield as well. And we work with a range of stakeholders from the public sector, from the social housing providers and the private sector as well, to understand how we can accelerate the progression to sustainable housing. And in particular, the last couple of years has been about, in particular, the focus on retrofit as well. We're involved with an earlier version of training with the LGA earlier this year and last year. And I'm going to say a few words about that in a while, just about setting the context, but I'm very much looking forward to work with you. We're very excited about what we're going to be going through over the next couple of months, and really looking forward to the action plans that come out of that. And we'll be supporting you along the entire programme, as well as the combination of technical programmes and the coaching sessions. So I'll now pass to Gerard from Contented.
Okay, thanks. And Gerard, could you say hello and a little bit about Contented?
Yes, thank you very much. My name's Gerard. I work with John, and I shall be supporting these sessions with John. Contented is a communications company and consultancy helping organisations move beyond compliance to where sustainability is a driver of success, I would say. That's probably enough.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Gerard.
Yeah, great.
Rosemary.
And good morning, everybody. It's great. We've got 65 people in the meeting now, and I'm looking forward to a great programme through the autumn. As Richard said, we have built on learning from the action learning sets, but also work we're doing on net zero neighbourhoods. And there will be a survey. You've had the link for it already. We'll be putting time for it in the programme today. We will be able to kind of tweak the rest of the programme based on what you say in the survey. So really would appreciate as full answers as possible on that. And the whole purpose of the programme is to support those absolute heroes in local authorities who have been pushing on with retrofit to help establish the kind of opportunities for local authorities to build really strong cross-departmental teams and bring everybody in who needs to collaborate inside and outside councils in order to get retrofit scaled up. So looking forward to fantastic discussion over the next few weeks.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, everyone. So what I'm going to do now is to ask Richard to give an introduction about the context and what's brought us here and where we're hoping to travel with this. So Richard, can you take us through, please?
Okay, thank you. So first of all, it's really quite great to see one or two people who actually were part of the action learning set process that we delivered with LGA the end of last year, beginning of this year. And that action learning set process was to help look at individual officers from local authorities develop their skills for delivering retrofit. When we were working with that group of people, it became very clear that delivery of retrofit was quite challenging for local authorities. And some of the reasons for that were many of the factors that led to successful retrofit were outside of the immediate control of the local authority. And some of the highlights particularly were how you engage with the supply chain, the retrofit supply chain. You may or may not have a particularly strong supply chain in your area. The availability of skills and quality contractors and the ability to upskill companies and residents was very, very important. And also the readiness of communities to accept retrofit as well. And all these issues were really barriers for successful implementation. But we also heard some really good examples from local authorities on how partnerships are being developed that really started to get over those challenges and barriers and really started to identify opportunities for working differently. So this program really emerged out of the findings from that program that effective partnerships are going to be critical to delivery and rollout of retrofit in the future. And that is at a sort of vertical level within local authorities and almost like a horizontal level across local authority boundaries and across regions as well. So this is why we'll be doing a lot of work within regions within you as well. So we know that local authorities do partnership work all the time. We're not at all attempting to teach you to suck eggs in any way, but what we are going to look at is some of the real detail about what makes partnerships work particularly well. What are the hard aspects that you need to put in place, the absolute rigid aspects that need to be put in place, but also how do you develop attitudes and behaviours that really develop effective partnership working. And we'll be looking at it in the three themes of developing partnerships with the with training and skills providers. And next week's technical briefing will actually have speakers from local authority, from the Retrofit Academy, from B4Box. Organisations are already looking at how to develop more effective ways of developing relationships with training and skills providers. And then we'll be looking at something similar with the supply chain. We'll be getting representatives of the supply chain to speak there. We'll be getting people to talk about issues such as procurement, and we'll be getting local authorities who have good examples about how they've been able to develop really effective working relationships with the retrofit supply chain. And the third element is just developing relationships with community organisations, community groups and residents, just to make sure that people are ready for retrofit when we start to roll out retrofit. Because resident apprehension and community groups support or sometimes not support for retrofit has a massive impact on the ability to roll out retrofit. So the program has two aspects. You will have technical briefings, which will be short, sharp presentations where you hear from people with their own examples, their own experience of what they've been looking to deliver. There'll be presentations of 10 minutes at a time, so you will not be bombarded with hours and hours of presentations. We know, though, that we're not presenting solutions that you can just roll out into your areas. It's very important for you to shape some of those ideas and to understand how you can work with them in your own authorities and across neighbouring authorities as well. So the coaching sessions are there to help you work in a very safe, protected space with other local authority representatives to start to develop your ideas further and to maybe start collaboration and connections as well. So this is very much a process where we need you to tell us also what you want. If you also have any good examples of partnership development across those three areas, please do let us know, because it's very easy for us to integrate those examples and those speakers into the program now. So that's a bit of an overview of the program. We're really hoping that at the end of this, we get some really exciting action plans develop out of this that show some new ideas or some new ways of working or some new collaborations or some new partnerships for delivering retrofit. So at that, I'll leave it there, but we're very much looking forward to helping you develop better solutions for retrofit over the next few months.
Okay, Richard, thanks very much indeed. Okay, everyone. So picking up on a theme that Richard introduced there, we're developing the program very much. We've got a framework, and then how we build the program is largely influenced by your input. Now, we're going into breakout rooms in a moment to take a look at a specific topic to discuss. And what we can't do, given we've got 67 people on this call, which is just quite amazing actually. What we can't do, of course, then is to take individual feedback from 67 people or from the 9 breakout rooms that we've got. Again, it's just a matter of time. So what we're asking you to do is, if you can record the headlines in chat of the emergent issues in your groups, that's the best way for us to capture what's happened, to capture what matters to you, and that will partly inform the way we grow and develop the program. So it becomes quite customized for you. So there's before we go into breakout, I'm just going to pop in chat now the topic that I'd like to take a look at, and it's just heading here. Quite simply, what makes for good partnership and stakeholder relationships? What gets in their way, and what makes them perform beyond expectations. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a really vibrant and energized discussion, given, as Richard's already alluded to, there's quite a disparity between where it's working well and where it's not working so well, and that you'll begin to sort of pick up from ideas from each other, from your own experience, about what you might want to try, what you might want to think about. The purpose of the large purpose of what we're doing here is about connectivity. So, Nat, can we pop people into breakout rooms now? And you've got 20 minutes on this one, and then we can take some feedback at the end of that 20 minutes. Is that okay?
Sorry, John, to correct, it's 10 minutes that we have.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then 10 minutes feedback.
Yeah, it's 10 and 10. My apologies. Okay, thank you, Beck. Cheers. Okay, thank you. Right.
Have we got one left over?
As Phil and Thomas still need to go into a breakout room.
Yeah.
Hello, Phil. You're not in a breakout room just yet. I beg your pardon. Same for you, Tom. We're working on it. Give us a second. Sorry. Tom's gone.
Yep.
Someone's just arrived into the room.
Christina, we're just putting everybody into breakout rooms at the moment, so we'll catch up with you later.
And she's gone. Marvelous.
How do you normally do it in terms of the breakout rooms? Do you like broadcast the questions to the rooms, or just for interest? Because we have this logistical issue as well with like not having a chair in each room, but making sure everybody knows what the questions are.
That's a very good point. I'll broadcast it now, actually. Then.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Matt Dillow's just arrived.
Hi, Matt. Welcome. We're just putting people into breakout rooms, so we'll catch up with you after the breakout session. You'll be moving imminently.
And he's gone.
Do we want to stop the recording during the breakout sessions?
Yeah, pause it.
This meeting is being recorded.
Jesus.
Hey. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. And I hope you've had a productive few minutes there. And what I'd like to do now is ask you to work with us on providing just a brief part of verbal feedback, and also if you can just pop up in chat what your headlines were, that would be great. So, anybody from breakout room 1, could you just tell us what it was that you were talking about? What were your strengths? What weaknesses emerged there? What were the good bits? What are the bear traps that we need to avoid? So just somebody from breakout room 1. If somebody doesn't volunteer, I'm just going to choose somebody. So
hiya, John. It's
hi,
Neil.
Neil.
Oh,
thank you.
Head up. The first part of it regarding the good relationship, it was sort of talking about time commitments, clear goals and objectives,
Mm.
clear structural leadership for the partnership, and then moved on to how to sort of excel, making sure there was support and buy-in from above and from other teams. We're talking particularly from a local point of view about legal and finance teams, and making sure we've got the right expertise in the room from an early stage.
Okay. No,
And
thanks.
then lastly on the problems, I think one of the main things we said was politics, both of a small and a large P.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Now, and okay, moving on. Bracket room 2. Who would like to? Who would like to go from there, please?
I think I was in room 2.
Thank you, Tanya.
So loads of retrofits being done by the councils in room 2, which is great, but it's very much an emerging market. So one of the issues with partnerships is having to do a sales pitch and inform and educate partners on retrofit. So you're starting from a very low base of knowledge. So it's quite hard to get people together. And people just saying you just need so much time and experience to get good at being a partnership. So some people had worked over 3 rounds of SHDF and have got a really cohesive partnership now, but you can't really fast track time and experience of working together. Also a real issue about people being knowledgeable in the council and then leaving, and all that retrofit knowledge and experience going, nobody else knowing, and also councils being under huge pressures at the moment and vacancy freezes, and so not replacing those people and it being dumped on other people, and just how complex the whole retrofit field is. There's not enough suppliers, not enough contractors, we're all fighting for each other's work, and it just, it's just a bit awful really, isn't it?
on that note, okay, Tanya, thanks a million. And bracket room 3, please. Okay. So somebody from bracket room 3, please. Let me just, okay. So,
I'm not sure we all know what rooms we were in. I actually didn't take note of the number, so I don't know if that's mine or not.
All right,
Sorry, so that's Jonathan Rawlins, Katie Waters, Lateef, Lisa, Martin Simmons, Matt Dillo, Rachel Jones, that room.
Okay, so away you go then. Having just, if you can just update us with that room, then.
Okay, then I'll do it.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. What makes a good partnership? We felt that it was. Let me try and remember. So, yeah, we thought that it was all hinges on the contract with the contractor. So it's really difficult to get over those bridges because you've got different aims and values, being a council and then the relationship with the contractor. But the way to get over that is to have something that's mutually beneficial, and that element that comes in is the fact that they might get the next work from you if they do a good job. So it's in the council's interest, if you're doing retrofit, for example, to have a contractor who's very good at tenant relationships and doing good quality work. The reason why this the incentive for the contractor to actually produce to that standard is because they might get other work going forward. We also mentioned about consistency throughout the partnership. So like somebody else said, when somebody leaves, it's really tricky and you're trying to build up those bonds again. And I don't know if anybody else wants to step in because I wasn't the one making the notes.
I've put them in the chat. Sorry, Katie.
Yes,
It's Lisa.
hi.
I've put them in the chat. It's the comments from Ellie is kind of a very quick summary of what we were doing. I kind of put them in as we were talking.
Thanks. Okay, lovely. Okay, and so moving on then to somebody from bracket room 4, if you knew that was actually the bracket room you were in.
So that's Alison, Danny, Gail, Joanna, Lillian.
Thank you, Beck. So.
Okay, well, I'll step in if
Thank you,
no one
Alison.
else wants to. so basically we were talking about how there's a huge education piece both for residents and installers, lack of installers, who is going to lead it. So you've got to have clear leadership. Should that be the council? Who should that be? We all share some objectives, but maybe not quite all of them. The short-term nature of a lot of the grants that we have, it's hard to get people on board to be trust marked. So lack of resources, and generally just the huge education piece of why this needs to be done and what the benefits are. And there are major benefits. So that is linked into businesses, it's linked into many areas. So a big challenge, and also I think lack of experience of people leaving the organisations or councils, and we haven't captured that experience. So a lot of people, we're all learning, and that's we need to make sure we've captured that. There may have been other things. I'm sorry, I apologise if I've missed anything.
Thanks, Alison. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, I think we can all accept that we're not going to get it all, but I think we're finding quite a rich picture emerging. So can we move on to the next breakout room, which I think is 5? Who was in that one, Beck, please?
Fi, Harry, Heather, Jonathan, Katie, and Sandra.
Okay. So somebody like to go, please?
I'm happy to speak for this group. So I think the two main takeaways that we found, one on the positive side and one on the negative side, sort of, is when we're trying to, the things that make the partnerships work and grow is, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and go out and find new groups of people, is to use the existing partnerships that we often have as in the public sector. So, for example, with the NHS and with sort of skills providers, that sort of things. If we can get the groups and the institutions that are often round the table with us round the table again, just in a slightly different setting, can often make things easier. But then on the flip side of that, keeping the groups together, keeping the engagement there when the funding dries up, is something we've all found a challenge, and something we should probably all sort of find a way of sort of having that long-term approach to these partnerships when the immediate funding isn't necessarily there.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks very much indeed. Yes, some very germane points there about continuance and casting that idea of a future shadow. So thanks very much indeed. So looking at bracket room 6, Beck, can you help me out with that one?
Ian, 2 Joes, Liz, Mark, Rachel, and Sam.
Okay, so who from that group would like to talk to us about your conversation? Well, given go on. Thank you, Sam. Cheers.
I think I'm the one who was in charge of the notes. So we focus quite a lot on sort of on strategic partnerships, and sort of talking about getting clear buy-in from all stakeholders, getting a shared aim, terms of reference, so you actually know what the purpose of the partnership is early on, and so you can work to that aim, but also needing the right people involved, and clear leadership and roles, and also transparency from everyone involved. We did also have a number of barriers, so things that got in the way. So quite a lot of us had found that we had a strong vision, but actually couldn't quite deliver, and we discussed some of the barriers that might be having the right people, a lack of funding, the supply issues, skills both internally and externally. So yeah, lots of these have already been mentioned.
Yeah.
I think as well, we said sort of what can take things beyond will be momentum, keeping and sort of having the people that can make decisions, but also the people on the ground involved in the right way as well. Yeah, I think that's the key things we had.
Sam, that's brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. And deck room 7.
That is Bethany, iPad, Jodie, Christina, Mac, and Sarah.
Yeah, I'm happy to go on that. I took a few notes.
Bethany, sorry.
Yeah, so starting, I suppose, on the negatives, what gets in the way. We talked about partners having other priorities, and you're not possibly understanding what those are, or each other's context and how you're working. We also talked about it taking time to build up reputation and trust, and that's, I think, with each other. And we talked about some examples where even with members of the public, building up trust in what you're trying to do can be tricky and take some time. And on what makes partnerships perform, similarly to lots of other people, we talked about shared visions and clear outcomes, but I think we kind of tried to relate it to the retrofit context. And I think for that, the outcomes can seem pretty overwhelming in terms of what we really want to see. So I think we talked about having clear shorter term outcomes or interim targets as part of that, so that you do feel like you are seeing some success. And they're not just feeling like the mountain is too big. And the other thing we talked about was every partner kind of taking forward areas that they're strong on, being clear on what those are, and that kind of genuine sharing of the load, and it not just being a partnership in name, but with one person doing everything or one organisation, but actually really kind of identifying each other's strengths and what we can each take forward.
Bethany, thank you very much indeed. And roommate?
So this is Ben, Billy, Emma, Gillian, Sarah and Thomas.
I'm happy to start from that group. I think we talked a little bit, again, more generally perhaps about partnerships, maybe not necessarily all about retrofit. Echoing what people have said about, I think at the start, people being on the same, both partners being on the same page about what people want to achieve, having that common goal. And I think the honesty up front about what can be achieved, because it's probably like a hesitancy for some to maybe be a bit too like ambitious and not say up front, actually we can't do that, and things like that. So I think it was that really, and I sort of made a point about sort of just like regular communication between the partners to make sure everyone's on the same page, and people don't get left behind with what's going on. But
Ben, thanks a million. All right, and into room 9, it's like the last member of the Fellowship of the Ring here, isn't it? But
so that's Charlotte, Dylan, Gail, Iona and Jason.
I'm happy to go in if no one else.
Jason, thanks a million.
That's
Cheers.
okay. I think most of our points have already been covered by the other rooms. I think one of the things that we spoke slightly about at the beginning was that a lot of this boils down to trust, and the trust of the other organisations in the partnership, whether that be in the public or private sector, and the sort of perceived risks therein around those, whether they be real or not real, as it might be in sort of the issues when engaging with delivery organisations, but also sort of the plus sides of those. And then we sort of had a long conversation about sort of the collaboration of those, and sorry, I'm just looking at very quickly at my notes, and sort of the outside of the retrofit sort of market as well, sort of the partnerships that can happen around those as well. Hopefully someone's put in some better notes than I have around this. I apologise to my room if I've done a bad job.
The only other thing that we talked about was around diversity, and how it's so important in a partnership to have a diverse range of different people, so you don't kind of have really strong opinions from one particular sort of area, and then that kind of drives too much.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, and thanks to everyone for your participation there, and for what you've done. That's brilliant. Thank you. I wanted to share a graphic with you, and I also want to get Microsoft page off my screen, which I've now done. So that's good. I'm going to relax. So I'm going to screen share now, and hopefully we shall have something. You should have something coming up now. Okay, so Nat, can you tell me, can everybody see that?
I can. We've got the revisitation of those black boxes again, but
okay. Let me just see if I can make that a little clearer for you.
It's in the top right-hand corner, John.
What do I need to do here? Okay. Is I'm struggling here.
That's better.
Right. Bear with me a second, please, folks.
I think, John, those boxes should go. If you leave it up, they should disappear. I think it's just a tech
Okay.
issue.
All right.
Fine.
Thanks very much.
Excellent.
Wow, thank you. All right, so get the heartbeat restored to around about a normal level, and I'll continue to talk now. Okay, and I can see that Sean has just joined us. Good morning, Sean. Hope you're okay, and welcome. You've just arrived in time to take a look at a graphic, which I'm wondering how well this captures, or how well some of the headings in your conversations fit in to this idea of hard and soft systems. When we looked at this, we picked up on this notion of governance, that systemic governance incorporating both hard and soft systems. We're also very interested in the bit in the middle, what happens where hard and soft systems, where it's actually quite vague. So when we're taking a look at how we move forward in partnership, it's my view, and something that we've talked about, that we might need quite an innovative approach to the hard side. And if you think about some of the feedback that we had, where are the policies, who's running it, where does the money come from, where are the structures, who are we reporting to? And then you also talked about the softer side. What are the ways of working, roles, accountability, communications, transparency, and so on. And there is a call in that area that particular aspect important is made explicit. And that again seemed to be an emergent theme from some of the feedback you gave us. So from the feedback you gave us, it actually fits quite comfortably in and around that graphic. And then there's also that kind of bit in the middle. Well, is it hard? Is it soft? Not sure about that. What I'd like us to do now is to go back into breakout rooms and spend some time. I think we've got 10 minutes allocated to this one. Is that right? Where we can just wrap our thinking around what does good governance of partnership and stakeholder relationships, what is it likely to look, sound, and feel like? And if it was working well, what would the benefits be? So the purpose of it, I think, if we can come out of this with, we've actually got some idea now of how we could articulate what good governance of partnership and stakeholder relationships would look, sound, and feel like, and what benefits would that generate. I think that would be a very productive topic area to discuss, and also starts to feed then how we populate the future sessions. So if not, we can pop people back into breakout rooms now. We're clear about that. And we've got, let me just check on this, we've got 10 minutes to
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Yeah, who
Sorry,
am I talking to?
it's Katie Walters, sorry.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. What is a partnership? Do you mean absolutely every single person, including the contractor?
Yeah.
Who delivers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I think it's and thanks for that. I think it's quite important that we think about getting it as right as we can from the start off. So who's actually, who are we wanting to engage with here, and what are the core messages. And I think it was in the last piece of feedback from Jason, that idea about collaboration and trust, and that idea of people maybe feeling that they've been part of the process from as soon as was possible, then I think we're then taking a look at, for the purposes of this exercise, what governance structures need to be in place to ensure that we can deliver on that. So are we okay for that? Okay, Nat, so can we drop people back into their rooms, and I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Feedback from you.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, yes,
Hi,
I took loads of notes and then I failed to post them, and they seem to have disappeared now. We've come back to the other room, so they might be in the ether somewhere. So,
Lisa, thank you.
They were brilliant, really insightful.
Yes, of course.
So yeah, under
and they
pressure
said.
I think we kind of had a talked more around the sort of potentially sort of formal governance structures and what sorts of things that might look like. So that kind of documenting the shared purpose, the roles, responsibilities, who contact, who's responsible for what, things like risk registers, identifying an opportunity for lessons learned and things like that. And then we kind of looked more in terms of reality. Often people have to move on to the next project straight away, and the lessons learned, it quite often gets lost.
Yeah.
And if you're perhaps working with people you've worked with for quite a long time, you might already have those relationships, and therefore you might need need to spend less time going through that formal governance side of things, and you can just get going. So it's kind of, it should be commensurate to what you're doing, the timescale you've got, but some sort of written down and agreed purpose is probably useful to be able to refer back to.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, thanks a million. And,
thank you very much. So group 5, Harry, Heather, Jonathan, Katie, Martin, Sandra.
I'll speak for the group again if nobody else wants to pipe up. So I think we agreed a lot with what group 1 was saying in the focusing on the delivery partnership of things. Some of that hard stuff around budgets, legal, all that heavy duty stuff is often quite well taken care of, because we've got finance teams, procurement teams, legal teams they do that every day, and they can always make sure that the contracts are sound and the numbers add up at the end of it. But the actual people on the sort of project management partnership with the contractors and deliverers, we found that we often lacked a bit of knowledge to make sure that the way the money was spent was correct, and making sure that in the partnership discussions, we were never quite sure how or when to intervene, to assist, etc., because we didn't necessarily have the skills and the knowledge, and we felt like the contractors were on a sort of a different level, and there was a sort of a gap in there, potentially on the more softer side of the little diagram. And sometimes bringing in consultants, external consultants, helped with that, but only sometimes was the money available to do that. And when the funding pots don't allow for it, we probably can't find money elsewhere to bring in and do that. The one good thing that we were talking about is what helps these partnerships work is bringing in that sort of high level, sort of director level insight and potentially overview from it, so we can get a bit more of that oomph, I guess, is the word, from a council perspective. And it also helps us internally. So one of the things we were discussing is if the people on the core in that partnership are from the housing team, but one of the problems is with the planning team, because you can't get your internal wall insulation planning permission for the list buildings, having the director helps bridge that gap and make that easier.
That's brilliant, Harry. Thanks a million. Cheers. And now I think we're into room 7, aren't we, Beck?
We are, yes. Does Bethany want to come forwards again?
I can, that's fine.
She does.
If anyone else wants to come in, they can.
No, they don't, Bethany, carry on.
So I think we were a long way off a working definition, if I'm honest. I think you probably need an hour for that. But we started off by talking about how things are working at the moment with delivery, and how we're, I suppose, getting kind of contractors involved in how council governance works at the moment and feeding up through existing channels. And that is important, because you can't overlook how decisions are made in local government. You need to bear those in mind. That's how things work. But also that sometimes that is what leads to kind of those silo working, and that therefore is helpful to have governance that's bringing together different streams, whether that's private sector housing, economic development, all of that kind of stuff. The difficulty, I think, with that is then what decision-making powers does that group have? You know, does it have teeth? Does it have a budget? And that, I think, is where they often fail, or can fail, because they just don't feel like they've then got the power. It then has to go back through 13, 14 different governance streams again. So we thought that it was important to have that group that brings everyone together, but how it then makes decisions is tricky. And then we talked about a couple of kind of local examples that we've got going on. But yeah, I think that's as far as we got.
That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. So what we wanted to do is also say, look, if anybody from the other rooms has got anything they would like to say, they'd like to add in, so this is really, really important. Now is your chance. Tumbleweed, bell rings, fine. Thank you. So what we're going to do now is to take a 10-minute comfort break. And during that time, could you look please to completing the survey? Richard, is there anything that you wanted to say about that?
Well, apart from the observation from the 2 breakout sessions, that there's an awful lot of expertise and experience within the officers here. And I think what we want to do to shape the rest of the program is to really grab some of that really good ideas or good experience you've had. And please do just highlight it. And if you're willing, put your name and your authority on that survey as well, because that really will allow us to build up the resource pack for this program to really capture some of those. And for us, it's really important that we get the combination of the broader retrofit supply chain, value chain in on this, as well as local authority, sort of peer-to-peer examples as well. So the more examples you have or ideas, please put them in the survey.
Okay. Thanks, Sophie. See you back here at 11:15. That'd be great.
1 second, John.
Beck,
we have a question.
Sorry, can I just ask
from
them
Cara
quickly on the back of that as well, just to also not filter out, but segregate the councils that have access to their own housing stock and those that don't, and the difference in being able to deliver something along retrofit, because we don't have our housing stock, and so it's harder for us to do that. But what can we do to support, you know, the delivery of it across the community without being able to actually physically impact on that?
So sort of influence rather than power in it.
Yeah, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm waffling. I'm gonna be quiet now.
Cara, that was great. Thanks, and good to see you again. Okay, so just after 11:15 then, folks. Okay, thank you, everybody. See you soon. Okay, so okay, everyone. What I'd like to do now is to show you a clip of a clip, and it comes from an author, researcher, consultant from I think it's MIT, a guy called Yves Muriot, and he talks about how we can take some of the complexity out of complexity. And in this TED talk, he's already addressed how systems sort of bump into each other, some of the points that you've already made. And the last thing we need then is to put more systems in place to add to the complication. So what I'd like us to do now, and we're just going to just click us into this in a moment, is just take a look to, it's about 5 minutes worth of the clip. I'm just going to post the whole lot for you now. You've got that in chat. So you might want to take a look at that. Let's take a listen and hear what Yves Muriot has to say about complexity.
Whenever people cooperate, they use less resources. In everything. You know, the repairability issue is a cooperation problem. When you design cars, please take into account the needs of those who will repair the cars in the after-sales garages. When we don't cooperate, we need more time, more equipment, more systems, more teams. We need, you know, when procurement, supply chain, manufacturing don't cooperate, we need more stock, more inventories, more working capital. Who will pay for that? Shareholders? Customers? No, they will refuse. So who is left? The employee, who have to compensate through their super individual efforts for the lack of cooperation, stress, burnout, they are overwhelmed, accidents. No wonder they disengage. How do the hard and the soft try to foster cooperation? Well, the hard. In banks, when there is a problem between the back office and the front office, they don't cooperate. What is the solution? They create a middle office. What happens 1 year later? Instead of one problem between the back and the front, now I have two problems between the back and the middle, and between the middle and the front. Plus, I have to pay for the middle office. The hard approach is unable to foster cooperation. It can only add new boxes, new bones in the skeleton. The soft approach, to make people cooperate, we need to make them like each other. Improve interpersonal feelings. The more people like each other, the more they will cooperate. It is totally wrong. It is even counterproductive. Look, at home I have 2 TVs. Why? Precisely not to have to cooperate with my wife. Not to have to impose trade-offs to my wife. And why I try not to impose trade-offs to my wife? Precisely because I love my wife. If I didn't love my wife, 1 TV will be enough. You will watch my favorite football game. If you're not happy, here is the book or the door. The more we like each other, the more we avoid the real cooperation that would strain our relationships by imposing tough trade-offs, and we go for a second TV or we escalate the decision above for arbitration. Definitely, these approaches are obsolete. To deal with complexity, to enhance the nervous system, we have created what we call the smart simplicity approach based on simple rules. Simple rule number 1. Understand what others do. What is their real work? We need to go beyond the boxes, the job descriptions, beyond the surface of the container to understand the real content. Me, designer, if I put a wire here, I know that it will mean that you will have to remove the engine to access the lights. Second, you need to reinforce integrators. Integrators are not middle offices. They are managers, existing managers that you reinforce so that they have power and interest to make others cooperate. How can you reinforce your managers as integrators? By removing layers. When there are too many layers, people are too far from the action. Therefore, they need KPIs, metrics, they need poor proxies for reality. They don't understand reality and they add the complicatedness of metrics KPIs. By removing rules, the bigger we are, the more we need integrators. Therefore, the less rules we must have to give discretionary power to managers. And we do the opposite. The bigger we are, the more rules we create, and we end up with the Encyclopedia Britannica of rules. You need to increase the quantity of power so that you can empower everybody to use their judgment, their intelligence. You must give more cards to people so that they have the critical mass of cards to take the risk to cooperate, to move out of insulation. Otherwise, they will withdraw, they will disengage. These rules, they come from game theory and organizational sociology. You can increase the shadow of the future, create feedback loops that expose people to the consequences of their actions. This is what the automotive company did when they saw that Mr. Reparability had no impact. They said to the design engineers, now, in 3 years, when the new car is launched on the market, you will move to the after-sales network and become in charge of the warranty budget. And if the warranty budget explodes, it will explode in your head. Much more powerful than 0.8% variable compensation. You need also to increase reciprocity by removing the buffers that make us self-sufficient. When you remove these buffers, you hold me by the nose, I hold you by the ear. We will cooperate. Remove the second TV. There are many second TVs at work. They don't create value, they just provide dysfunctional self-sufficiency. You need to reward those who cooperate and blame those who don't cooperate. The CEO of the Lego Group, Jürgen Wignerstop, has a great way to use it. He says, blame is not for failure. It is for failing to help or ask for help. It changes everything. Suddenly it becomes in my interest to be transparent on my real weaknesses, my real forecast, because I know I will not be blamed if I fail, but if I fail to help or ask for help. When you do this, it has a lot of implications on organizational design. You stop drawing boxes, dotted line, full line, you look at the interplay. It has a lot of implications on financial policies that we use, on human resource management practices. When you do that, you can manage complexity, the new complexity of business, without getting complicated.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry about the graphics here, and earlier in chat I've posted slides. There's some slides just on a Google link. Make sure that works, and on those slides you've got those 6 rules that Yves was talking about there. It's quite interesting. As we were going through that clip, I was jumping in and out of some of the feedback we'd had from your chat rooms this morning. And what I'd like us to do now is just to go back into your chat rooms and just to tease out, are there any key messages from what you heard there that's made you go, oh yeah, has that switched the light bulb on? Or has that said for you, actually, yeah, there's something that I need to develop out of that, I need to be talking to a few people about. So we're going back into chat now for 10 minutes and just to take a look at our perspectives given that piece of information. Colleagues, I have to say that time does mean that what we can't do is to have what I would probably like to do now, which is quite a large shared conversation about what we've seen and what we've heard. But I'm sure you'll understand that. So if we can go into chat now, Nat, and then I'll see you back in 10 minutes. Thank you. From my own perspective,
being recorded.
From my own perspective, a lot of my work is informed by Patrick Lencioni, and about what makes organisations fail or what makes them succeed. And in the pyramid that he uses, it puts trust at the bottom of this pyramid, saying if you haven't got trust, you haven't got a foundation on which to build. And at the top of it, he puts outputs. What are we actually here for? And he says you need to get those 2 sorted out. Then the bits in the middle you can sort out in process, but those 2 have to be in place. And it's very interesting today how many times the word trust or something similar to it, similar words have been used or similar concepts have been used, and the whole idea about what are we supposed to do anyway has also filtered through to me. So, Beck, Richard, Grace, is there anything that you'd like to say before we go? Rosemary, Jared?
I think Richard wanted to say something about next session.
Thank you.
Just very briefly, I mean, for me, some of the words that I've heard that have been really inspiring have been things like about the requirement for new mindsets, about clear one vision, and a lot of collaboration type talks. So just to say about next week, we have the first theme-based technical session, which is about engaging with the training and skills providers. We have 2 local authorities who will be speaking about their experience. We have a college who delivers retrofit training. We have the Retrofit Academy, they're national sort of leaders on skill development. And we have B4 Box, which are doing some very interesting work on employment and skills in the Northwest region. They're all going to be relatively short presentations, 10 minutes each. They're going to be there for you to hear, ask questions. There won't be breakout rooms or sessions like anything like we've had today. They will be for the coaching sessions that follow on. Yeah. So hopefully you shall hear some very interesting presentations on how people have started to get over these challenges. So we look forward to working with you next week.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.